Kairos Outside, Continuing Ministry, International Conference in Louisville, Kentucky, July of 2021.
If you all would please bow your heads and join me in prayer. Father, thank you so much for the privilege and honor to get to serve you in this capacity. We ask that you be with us here this afternoon, be present in this discussion, and you open our hearts and our minds to hear your word. Prepare us as we understand the groundwork for this ministry, and that we take away more than what we started with, that we know how to reach these ladies. Thank you for these in attendance and the families and communities they represent. In your name we pray. Amen.
So welcome, everyone. We're so glad to have you join us for this presentation on continuing ministry. We hope to give you some great ideas to take back to your advisory council and help you with understanding what continuing ministry is all about and how it's going to benefit your advisory council. So let's start off by introducing yourselves. My name is Michelle Edwards, and I'm from East Texas. I currently serve on the state subcommittee as the co-chair for Kairos Outside.
And I am Debbie Bushart, and I am from the western part of Kentucky, and I currently serve as the chair of the Kairos Outside Advisory Council. Well, we got to think about viewing the Kairos Outside ministry in the same way that we look at Jesus's ministry. I think this is a wonderful analogy. First of all, Jesus ministered to everyone, kind of like we have reunions that everyone can come to. Jesus ministered to smaller groups, like his 12 disciples. And we have weekends. And Jesus had even more intimate ministry with an even smaller, more confidential group, Peter, James, and John, just like we have SWAT groups. Isn't that a great analogy?
So we like to think that Kairos is all about the weekends. Well, the truth is that the weekend is only the vehicle to get us to our destination, and continuing ministry is where we should all be.
Now, the question is, what is continuing ministry? Well, continuing ministry actually develops three different things. And I'm going to give all three of them to you, and then I'm going to break them down. It gives us community, accountability, and spiritual growth. But let's start with community. You know, we have to create a safe setting for these people. We have to make sure that each one of them is comfortable and feels a sense of belonging. It's like an extended family where you feel safe and comfortable. But, you know, it's really important that we build this sisterhood, this safe sisterhood for them. The second one is accountability. Well, sometimes when I've done good things, I want to be accountable. When I've done not so good things, I don't want to be. But we know in reality that we need to be accountable at all times. And when you think about it, these ladies have been judged either for decisions they've made or maybe decisions that someone else has made. But sometimes they have been judged harshly and they have shut down. And we have to be able to offer a judgment-free zone. So confidentiality must be at the forefront. We have to show them that we love them with Christ's love for who they are. We have to give them security of knowing that what they say here stays here. And then finally, spiritual growth. You know, this comes from keeping the meeting on track. We don't want it to wander off to left field or right field. It has to be a meaningful time and not a waste of time. You don't want to give up your time if it doesn't have a purpose. We know that. Don't let the event, either it be reunion group or SWAT groups, don't let them turn into gossip sessions or gripe sessions. The purpose is to help them grow spiritually. So when they leave there, they're going to take the thought that God was with them during that time and take that with them throughout their days.
So there's two parts of continuing ministry. And I don't know about y'all, but I love to do puzzles. And what happens when you get almost to the very last few pieces and you're missing something? So for us, the reunions and the SWAT groups are the final pieces of that puzzle. So they create a bigger picture within the ministry.
Well, we're going to talk about both reunions and swap groups. We're going to start with reunions. First of all, who's invited to the reunion? Well, just about a lot of people there, I would say. It can be people who have been through the weekend, families, their spouses, volunteers, even people that you think you might want to invite to a Kairos outside weekend. The feel there is very relaxed. It's not going to be too heavy because we want everybody to fit in and feel comfortable. Remember, if people come, there might not be anybody there they know except for their family members. Or if you're a lady that has been on a weekend, you might come and there might not be anyone there from your particular weekend. And so they may not know anyone. So it is our job to make them feel included, to make them feel that they belong and that they're wanted there. How do you do that? Well, you make sure that everything is welcoming. Make sure there's somebody there to welcome each person as they walk up. You don't want to be divided into little groups over here and over there. You want to include everyone and welcome them in. You might even have activities for them to join as they come in. But you want to have fun music. You want to have a comfortable speaker that's not going to preach at them, but it's going to talk to them about things. You want to have a prayer, but just remember, you want them to feel included.
So Debbie, how many times a year do we need to be having a reunion? Is it just after the weekend?
No, there really needs to be at least 4 per year. And you can have many more than that. Obviously, you could have one a month if you wanted to, but we would like to have at least 4 per year. Now, what is the goal of the reunion group? Well, it's to encourage more intimate relationships among the women, and we call those swap groups. And we'll talk about those in just a few minutes, okay? But let's talk a little bit more, a little bit about what a swap group is in general.
All right. So swap groups are for Kairos guests and teams. So what does the swap actually stand for, or what does it mean? So we have the S for share, W for witness. Then we have to be accountable. So that's what the A stands for, is accountability. And finally, prayer. So the feel of these meetings, which is similar to the reunions, they're much more deeper, and they encourage a deeper level of sharing their life. You may have some ladies that are in that group that you can feel comfortable sharing the most intimate details and secrets of what's going on with your life. I mean, we go through a lot as loved ones who have someone incarcerated, and just having that kind person to just sit and share that with, that really means a lot. And those are very, very personal details to share. They also bridge the gap between a weekend and the reunion. It's very similar to what we have on the family table on the weekends. It gives support systems to our ladies that don't usually get it from their own family and close friends. That's very unfortunate. So this is why those are so, so important. So each guest is given a swap card to use in their going forth packet, and they should also be available at the swap groups and reunions. If those of you are providing the panel to talk to at the end of the weekend and you get to ask those questions, make sure that somebody is asking those questions about a swap group and what they mean and how they can get started. You can start a swap group with just a few of you getting together, going over the sharing and witnessing about things that have happened, and then asking for prayer. You can pick up the phone and call someone, every week and say, this is great. Let's do it again next week. And sometimes those conference calls are great. Meeting for a cup of coffee, or in Deb's case, she likes to have the Diet Coke. I believe that's what it was. And so just getting together and sharing those moments together. So swap groups can be in your car with someone that you travel with when you're traveling to and from the meetings every week. That's another great time to have that confidentiality. Is definitely in the car where, 2 or more are gathered together, you can swap. So anyway, the swap cards can be ordered from KPMI at www.mykairos.org. And we also have these in the back for you ladies and those gentlemen who actually snuck in with us. We'd love to share those with you.
Okay, so we've talked about the 2 parts of continuing ministry, the reunions, which is the bigger group, and the swap groups, which are the smaller, more intimate groups. But who is in charge of these? Well, each advisory council has a continuing ministry coordinator. And this is one of those standard voting positions that every advisory council has. And their job is to focus on the continuing ministry for the advisory council. They need to make sure that there is an appropriate selection of reunion leaders. They are to encourage participation from the guests and volunteers, and they also aid in planning the program per the current program manual. They make sure that all of the flyers are at the weekend to be put in the ladies going forth packets. Because remember, there needs to be a piece of paper in there that says, these are when the reunions are going to be, here's where they're going to be located, and all those kinds of things. You also want to make sure that your continuing ministry person is putting that in any newsletters that you all give out, and also your mailings, your social media pages, whatever it is, however you get the information out, that always needs to be put out there, maybe even on your website, whatever you might have, so they will be able to check that currently, and then send them reminders to let them know that it's almost time for a reunion group. And then the last thing is you have to put this information in Kairos Messenger. Now, you're going to think, why is that so important? Well, National needs to be able to have that information when they are talking to people who are interested in the Kairos program, either Kairos Inside or Kairos Outside. But it is an opportunity for us to share our blessings with International so that they can use that information in whatever way they need to use it.
So Debbie, let me ask you, so this is an awful lot. So is this something that can be shared within the council? Can they bring on someone to help them do this job?
They certainly can. The continuing ministry coordinator does not have to work alone. They can have a committee that works under them. They are just the person that you go to that's in charge of that. But that's a good question. There does not have to be just one person.
Thank you. So let's talk about what to do at the reunions. So what does it look like? Well, first of all, they should be fun for everyone. You have music and worship. You can even have a special guest speakers, especially someone who's been a guest on the Kairos Inside, to share a little bit about how we get better together, as they say, and share about your activities together. They should have time to break out into small swap groups and then jump straight on into those activities. Remember that you may have children there, and having an activity for them while mom is in the swap group is also important. You can always bring in someone who's responsible for the children and make sure that they have an activity. They can even do arts and crafts and even make a agape for the next weekend. So where do you meet? So meetings can be at a park or at a church, or really anywhere that a group can meet comfortably. Remember the confidentiality aspect, and they need to have an opportunity to have those safe spaces to discuss anything that they may need to talk about. So what can you do? There's one that I remember that we actually had swimming, and we had a swimming pool and we had a lake, and we had a lot of kids who made a lot of fun friends, and even our men got involved, and they had a wonderful time. So you can do cookouts and game stations, campfires and brunches and afternoon teas. Creating opportunities for everyone to get together, and the list is really endless. Invite everyone in your database, every single one of them, and hopefully you've got the current information so you can send them invitations, and make sure your contacts are being contacted also. You know, we're supposed to stay in contact with them for at least 6 months to a year after the weekend. So if you're not doing that, you need to be giving these ladies an opportunity to share at these reunions. So try a scavenger hunt. You can do that. And then also for the Zoomers, especially those who can't get out because of COVID or anything like that, they can always get together on a Zoom and have them do a scavenger hunt while they're on the Zoom call. Have them go and go get me a whisk. How many spatulas do you have? And so they can run back and forth and do that. And you can make them a lot of fun. So then you need to break out into swap groups in your Zoom. You can do that into small groups, and you can assign those rooms, or you can just kind of do it randomly, about 3 or 4 people in a room, and give them a time limit, and then they can come back. So does anyone have any ideas that they'd like to share?
Thank you all for sharing that information. She talked about reunion groups, and now I want to talk about the more intimate swap groups. And I want you to think for just a second. Think about accountability. If you've got something really very exciting that you want to share, who do you share that with? Or if you have someone who maybe you have a sorrow or a fear, who do you share that with? You know, if you're married, oftentimes you'll say, okay, I'll share that with my spouse. But remember, these ladies of Kairos Outside, they sometimes do not have that opportunity. So I think we need to think the idea behind the swap group is that we're trying to put people with similar backgrounds together that have similar experiences, because they would be able to talk through it and work through these issues with one another. And they might not have the same set of circumstances that someone else might have. Now, let me just say, if your group has had a difficult time getting reunions going or getting swap groups started, you're not the only ones. We just have to look at the areas that have been successful and kind of look at things that they do so that we could follow that same pattern. Well, okay, first I would say that think about the guests on your weekends that live near you. That's the first thing you want to think about, is people that live near you, that have been through Kairos Outside, that have sat at those tables. They know what that prayer and share time is about. See if they'd like to get together. Set a time and a place. Michelle said it might be coffee, but she said for me it'd be Diet Coke, because I'm not a coffee drinker, but I drink Diet Coke regularly, so I could meet anybody anytime for a Diet Coke. But then think about, talk to them about their Kairos experience. Who do you live life with? Who can you find time to share with? Those kinds of things. Discuss the meeting of being on a regular basis. Now, if you can't find the people that live there in your area, think about people in your life. If you go to visit an incarcerated friend or spouse or child, are there other ladies there in that same boat? Think about, who do we do our life with? Well, if you struggle to find ladies, you always think back with your sisters from your own weekend or team members from your weekend. But remember, your previous team contact might even be someone, even if they don't live nearby, because you can go to them through Zoom. It's a wonderful avenue now. I didn't know what Zoom was a year and a half ago, but now it seems like my whole life revolves around it. So think outside the box, okay? You can have a Zoom meeting with people that you met during your weekend that might live far away. That's absolutely fine. Thinking about how many would you want in a swap group? Well, you don't want it too large that it gets too big to share. It can be as small as you need it to be, or I would say 3 or 4 people. But, we want to meet as regularly as possible. I know people's schedules are crazy. It might be better for you to meet every Thursday night at 9 o'clock after you've got your kids in bed via Zoom. Maybe that works better for you trying to go out and meet with them somewhere. But, the whole idea is you want to be committed to this. Here's the thing. Everybody is not going to say yes the first time what you ask them. You may have to ask them more than once, and you have to be okay if they say no. And it's really sad to do that. But the mood for these has to be spiritual. Remember, God is at the center of these swap groups. When they need him the most, he is there. It has to be judgmental. And remember, we're not there to fix anybody. Heaven knows I can't even fix myself, so I know I couldn't fix anyone else. But remember that habits don't form quickly. So this swap group may not happen quickly or overnight. It may happen that you meet just very rarely, and then you try to build that up to every other week or hopefully weekly. It takes perseverance, patience, time, effort, heart, and sometimes you just have to make sure you don't let the nose get you down. Now, does anyone out there have any good ideas of how you group got your SWAT groups to meet?
I know that our group got started just because we had me and one other gal from the same area. We were the only ones from that area. And so we started and we got together and started having our meetings. And we've actually grown to about 12 people. So we've actually had to break up and into smaller groups. And even our men are the spouses of some of those ladies. They'll meet in their own little area and have their own little spiritual time together, and they actually go through the SWAT cards together as well. But we're careful to make sure that in our small group with our ladies, we want to make sure that they're comfortable. So we want to make sure that we keep those separated, and it's really a great time to share. So we did grow. It took us a couple of years, and now I think we've got like 3 groups from that one. So it's a great feeling to see how that all got started. All right, so let's talk about communication. So communication is number one, and it is the very most effective tool that we have. It's absolutely essential in our ministry. So the good data in equals good data out. Okay, so you want to make sure that you keep your records updated and stay on top of those changing phone numbers and emails and addresses. It's a good idea to make sure that every time you have a reunion, print out your data list and have everybody just check off when they're there, check their name and their phone number, because otherwise they're not going to know when their reunions are, right? So any updated information needs to be changed in Ezra and Messenger, and make sure you get those updates in, especially if they're not serving on a team. And then also too on social media. So why not utilize this tool and add your resources for communication? I know our group, we have a lot of flyers that we put up. We put it up for all the closings and all of our weekend teams starting. Anytime there's a group to get together, and our small groups or SWAT groups, we want to make sure that we encourage those who may not have someone that they can always join us.
Now, she mentioned Kairos Messenger, and I'm sure you all know how to find it, but the address is there, www.kairosmessenger.org, and it is provided to all advisory council members. It's done through the secretary. She has sent information to give you your password and all those kinds of things. But what you need to know is everybody does not have the same permissions. As chair of the West Kentucky Kairos Outside Board, I only have certain things that I can see. If I were the financial secretary, there would be things that only she can see. So we don't always see the exact same thing. But Messenger does many things. It allows you to keep up with who is active and inactive, their contact information. As Michelle said, if that information has changed, and you know it's changed, then you can change it in Messenger. It also gives you a way to send out emails. They can be sent out from the database, and it goes back to that, good data in is good data out. Data is the currency of Kairos, because they have to have that data to be able to do what they do there at International. And just remember, if we do not put good information in, they cannot get good information out. But don't forget that if you will update Messenger, Ezra updates it. If you'll put it, let me say that again. If you will put it correctly in Ezra, Ezra will update Messenger. Sometimes my tongue gets ahead of my brain, but I think y'all got my message there.
I also want to point out too, if you go to this website, you can, some people are afraid of Messenger and they're like, well, I don't know how to use it. Well, guess what? Messenger has these wonderful little things called video tutorials. So if you go to the website, you can click on that drop down and click on tutorial, and then view the tutorial. And guess what? It even has it in PDF instructions. So you can always print that out and utilize that. I encourage you, if you're not using Messenger, make this part of your advisory council meeting one afternoon. Everybody gets their own logins. They can log in and check it out. And then you can also do it through PowerPoint or something like that, so they can go in and see it and do it together. Get you a big project screen and do it and go through that with your HO Advisory Council. So let's talk a little bit about continuing ministry and how vital it is to our program. So Messenger should be utilized for updating your continuing ministry numbers. And this in turn will provide essential data for our grant writers for the support of the ministry. Okay, it also encourages participation from our Department of Corrections supporters, and it gives us valuable information to take back to the departments, so they will continue to support our programs. Remember, Kairos Insight is not in every state, and the only way that we can help to get that and encourage these wardens and superintendents and so forth, depending upon what state you're in, is that they want to see this information. So with this allows us to give them verifiable information that they can look at when they're continuing or to decide what they want to do with that. And so this encourages the growth with our ministry and all of our programs through Torch and through Kairos Inside and Kairos Outside.
Okay, now we've done the majority of talking about continuing ministry, about the two parts of the reunions and of the SWAT groups, but now we're going to let you do some talking. I want you to find the SWAT card that you have there, and I want you to look at that for just a second. This is not the only way to do a SWAT group, but it is a wonderful way to keep you focused, to make sure that you're talking about the things that we need to talk about when these people get together. The S, remember, was share what you've learned during the past week that helps you to have a better understanding of Christ's love and what Christ is calling you to do. The W was witness to those times when you especially felt Christ's love during the past week, when you tried to help someone recognize his love, or when it was hard to show his love to someone else. The A is for accountability. Account for your progress or lack thereof in doing what you would hope to show your growth or God's love to others. And P is for prayer for each other, and ask for prayers for yourself, both in thanksgiving and support. Now, in just a second, I'm going to ask you all to move into groups of about 4. And we are going to do a little bit of work with our SWAT groups. As a matter of fact, we're going to look at the witness part. And what I'm going to want you to do in just a few minutes, when I put you together, I'm going to want you to share with your SWAT group when you have felt Christ's love this past week, or when you tried to show Christ's love to someone else, or when they showed it to you. So I want you to think about getting Christ's love, how you felt it, how you've shown it. Okay, I'm going to give you about 3 minutes. I want you to move into your groups of 4. And once I think you're settled, I'll give you your directions one more time. Okay, you've had time probably to get into your groups. Thank you for doing that so easily. Again, we're going to look at the W in witness, and I want each one of you to share with one another when you have felt Christ this week, felt his love, or when you've tried to show it to someone else, or when someone else showed it to you. And we'll let you know when your time is up. We'll give you about 15 or 20 minutes to do this.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. I hope some of you, I heard some of you giggling and laughing, and I hope y'all had as much fun as I did. I know that our weekend theme is about find the blessing, and all of you have been a blessing here today. So, Debbie, I'm going to let you go ahead and close us out.
Okay, remember that after we leave today, Michelle and I are going to stay for a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, you can let us know. Remember, we are not experts. We are just from 2 different communities that are working our way through the process just as you are. But there is comfort in numbers and knowing what other groups have done. Before we leave, does anyone have any questions for the group? Okay, then thank you so much. And Michelle and I will be here if you need to talk. Thank you and have a blessed day.